think
NFTs is something that I'm sort of into too. Like,
Sure. Well, I saw that, and I was just like, I saw that you're into it. I saw that you, I don't know, you posted something to your stories or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe he's got his finger on the pulse on this a little bit. And
so what I did was, and you know, I did a ton of homework, right? And when I say a ton, I mean I think I did 20 or 30 hours of homework.
Okay.
And what I realized too is like a bunch of it is crap.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard over and over again is you should never put money in there that you think you know that you're.
That's just like, yeah.
The
I get
disclaimer kind of thing, right? Because there's a really good chance that 90% of this, 95% of this goes to zero.
Yeah.
With that said, there is some fun projects in there that can take off. I did a whole bunch of homework, and then I'm a big Gary Vee guy, right?
Sure.
I'm a big fan of that dude, and the timing was pretty wild. Shortly after I sort of finished understanding what they were, and I was out there looking at punks and things like that. And I remember the funny story about those CryptoPunks. There's just those little pixel drawings. Have you seen them? And I was like, I can do this. I went and bought the program, like a pixel drawing program, and I'm sitting there. I got a couple of my own little drawings I made, and it was still wrapping my mind around everything, and I was stuck on the how simple the art was, and I didn't quite make the connection yet to like I didn't make the connection to the collectability and the history of it, and the like. If you start to think about baseball cards, if you got a Mickey Mantle, if you got a Ted Williams, if you got something that's in good condition that was a pioneer, that was early, and that's sort of what drove me to get the Kings of Leon NFT album that I got. It was, to my knowledge and all the research I'd done, it was the very first music.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I felt like
that'll be historical.
I feel like it is, so I bought 3 of them, just to see. And I don't think they're worth a ton today, but it's we'll see what it's worth in 10 years. That's cool. They were $60 each. So it wasn't like I was breaking the bank.
Nothing.
So, nothing. Yeah. So I just spent a lot of time looking for that type of stuff. Well, then enter Gary Vee, who is really, vocal. He has a great following. He's really thoughtful about everything that he does. He created that V-Friends thing that just...
I'm sorry, I need to put him in my notes because you talk about him all the time. And
yeah.
I want to...
I'll send you some stuff too. I try not to inundate people, but I'll send you a few cool things. And he's got some short, digestible pieces of content that will help you maybe wrap your mind around a little bit more. But he created something called V-Friends that was interesting, and and they were reasonable in that they were a few $1,000 to maybe 10,000 to 20, 30,000 for some of the different ones. But what I thought was neat that he did that struck me differently than a lot of the other ones I've been researching, he put a utility around some of his to where it's not just a little drawing or a piece of art.
Sure.
There was you could meet him. You could have I get to go have a brunch with him.
That's cool.
Some of them you could play bubble hockey with him, like something like that. So there was some utility around a lot of these, which I thought was pretty neat. And then just the way that he's gone about marketing and promoting and the community around it, and kind of explaining to people that this is not, if you're in it to flip these and make a few $1,000 in the short term, it's a dicey game.
Sure.
and it's going to be hard work. If you believe in the creator and you've done your homework on the creator and you're willing to kind of look at their 10-year plan, maybe it's an artist that you just think is amazing and you can tell from their online information that they're going to grind for 10 years.
Sure.
That might be a cool one. So he's been pretty innovative. I've got, I'd say, just straight up NFTs, I got 50 or so.
Okay.
Now, he just released these book games things. This book, 12 and a half. You need to take that with you, too.
Thank you.
That book, for everybody that bought 12 of those, you got one NFT that he put on this different marketplace. It's not the standard Ethereum marketplace, but it's almost like a game, and you can trade them and you can acquire more and that sort of thing. So I got 83 of those bad boys from the book games.
I saw you with the big box and talking about passing them out. So
yeah, it's really cool. Now those are interesting because the idea is to collect those and trade them and forever. not, I mean, you can make a trade today, and I'm going to wait and see and let it all play out. But 10 years from now, you could trade those. Maybe they're worth more money than or whatever, but you can trade them for other NFTs. He's got like LeBron James rookie cards out there that you could trade it for, or a piece of art or whatever it is. So I've gone in on the Gary Vee stuff because I believe in him. So with those 83, I've got 4 of the V friends, and I really feel really comfortable in all those.
Cool.
I've got 46 other ones that I'm not as
just whatever
comfortable with, maybe.
It's like buying Dogecoin.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I got Doge, I got Sheep, I got all that stuff. And I'm too. Like, man, if it takes off, great.
It's
if
like
it doesn't,
I'll throw 100 in this, I'll throw 100 in this,
yeah.
I'll throw 100 in this. It's like lottery tickets.
That's exactly what it is. So, and these are all like lottery tickets, right?
Sure.
So if you find like, I've got 2 or 3 that I just really like the artist.
Yeah.
There's a local guy here, Neil, the Tulip Factory. You should check him out. He's got a handful of them. And he's just a good dude that I know is going to grind for a lot of years. And he was kind enough to gift me a couple. And
that's cool.
And I like him, I believe in him. And I think that he's going to do something with it. So, I can help give you some background on how the process works.
If you just share some of your study materials when you first got into it. Because when I'm getting into something like that, I want to know all the mechanics behind it. And like I said, with the trading thing I'm doing, I traded for 4 years and lost thousands of dollars, not being profitable.
Yeah.
But even if I'd set up a demo account and play with fake money, I would not learn anything unless I had skin in the game.
Yeah.
So,
same. I tried to do the same thing with I think you used to be able to do that on Yahoo.
Yeah.
I tried to do that on there, and
I just kept putting 50 or $100 in it, and I'd get up a little bit, and then overnight, boom, gone.
That's how I started in the crypto world. Really, was the same thing. I think my very first, I put like $50 in Ethereum because that made sense to me.
Sure.
Because of the digital contracts and my day job with forensics and metadata and that sort of thing. And from there, it snowballed.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where I was like, all right, I believe in a handful of these NFTs, and you buy them with Ethereum, so it's just like having Ethereum. So I'm going to buy some of these NFTs and let it sit there and let that value help add to it. And
so if you buy it with Ethereum and Ethereum's value goes up, does the NFT's value go up?
Typically, there's some correlation, but not always.
Okay.
It just kind of depends. It's really, that's one of the neat things too, is it's sort of up to the creators and the community, and on how they want to deal with it. Some of them will relate it back to the dollar, and some of them don't. But I'm finding a lot of these, you just I would join, I would get on Discord, join some of the Discords on ones that you're interested, listen to the community, what they're saying, get involved in some of the chats. Some of them are all about making a buck today.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I tend to steer clear of. Some of them just talk about, just the overall market and holding on to these things for 5, 10, 15 years and seeing what they turn into. They're legit long-term investments in a lot of cases. So, the one thing that I will say is Gary's V Friends 2 is supposed to come out here in the next couple of months, and he says that these are going to be a little bit more affordable in the $1,000 range.
Sure.
So we'll see what they come out at, but given his track record, and the ones that I've bought have, 10x what I paid for them.
Nice.
And so those are going to be a hard one to get. They'll probably sell out really quickly, but if you're looking for one to get into right away, that's probably somewhat reasonable, and with a guy behind it that has a proven track record and is out there vocally, saying this is his life's work for the next 40 years to make sure that these NFTs work, he's probably a pretty good investment.
Okay.
I would think. The other ones, man, you just don't know. I got goats, I got apes, I got all those things.
That's what doesn't make sense to me. I'm paying how much for a gift?
Yeah, I know. It's so hard. And that's kind of what goes back to the studying the person behind it, the people that are creating it,
Sure.
studying, what goes with it. Can you get access to certain people? Can you get, the thing with me having an app, then I'm trying to become a social media marketer kind of thing. I really wanted to buy one of these that got me access to sit and talk with Gary.
Okay.
It from a value standpoint, to learn from him, somebody who's done it.
Sure.
that made sense to me. So you could almost throw any price tag on that, and I'm going to evaluate it from a business standpoint of I want to meet him to help my overall goals.
Okay.
So that was one of the reasons why I thought this was a cool project. Some of them may have nothing like that.
Sure.
Some of them may have events or festivals or concerts or, you know, whatever it is. So like you can find the ones that are into the one that I recently bought that's loosely associated with him as well. Is you'll really appreciate this. It's one of the first, I think, NFTs that's a membership to a private restaurant in New York City.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's called Fly Fish Club, I think. It was about 2.5. They had two different levels, 4 ETH, I think, and 2.5 ETH. And the 4 ETH was a little bit more of a special room, private room kind of thing. But essentially, it's like, think of a country club. You got to pay an initiation fee for a country club, but you can't go play golf at a country club if you're not a member. Well, this is kind of like that, except for the initiation fee is this NFT that is now an asset for you, and you can trade it and sell it and do whatever you want to do with it. Which I thought was really cool. So here we are in Indiana. I'm probably not going to be to New York a whole lot, but I thought it's a neat asset, and it's something that I'll be able to maybe resell later or whatever.
Especially if it's not an initiation fee that you're losing.
You don't lose it. Yeah.
That's cool.
And the one cool thing that he's added that I think is a game changer that I see coming in a lot of these other things, he's putting the ability to lease this NFT out for a month.
Okay.
So the restaurant opens in January of 23, I think. So obviously I'd like to go check it out in January. So I plan on being there and using it. So it doesn't pay for my food. It just gets me in the door, and I got to, do all the wonderful things that I do in a restaurant anyway. And having a restaurant related app sort of ties into it. So it makes sense for me. But let's say in February it's cold in New York and I don't really feel like going out there again. So I can put it on a site. Somebody can lease it from me for a few $100
and use it to,
and they can use it.
That's cool.
To go to the restaurant. So it's theirs for that month, and they still got to make a reservation. They still got to pay for their food. And then at the end of February, it comes back to me.
That's cool.
And so the whole idea of being able to, it's kind of like we were just talking about Airbnbs downstairs, like it's almost like that, right, for a membership. So if there's some guy that wants to impress his customers by taking them in New York to this fancy restaurant, they may be able to lease the membership from me for a few days or for a month or whatever it is to use. So you just, studying the utility behind them and what it overall does.
So since we're kind of starting to segue into hospitality and restaurant stuff, there's a lot of talk. Bartenders have never been able to copyright the recipes.
Interesting.
And there's been a lot of talk about copyright law. If somebody takes one of your cocktail and puts it on their menu, like should there be like a royalty paid or something like that? Because some of these guys, like you look at guys like, oh man, you look like Giuseppe Gonzalez, or like some of these guys that have created some of the modern classics that are being replicated in cocktail bars all over the world now. Like there's no copyright or anything on that. So there's a lot of talk about NFTs being almost a way for a bartender to copyright the recipes.
Interesting.
So that's pretty interesting. I've fallen down that rabbit hole a couple of times.
I bet.
Like I said, until I learn the mechanics behind everything, I'm not too sure.
That's interesting. It's I like the idea of branding the cocktail, and pounding that brand a little bit better. But like, it's like even anything with my app, like I would love to be able to copyright the ability to have an app that offers servers and bartenders their own brand and the finding them and that sort of thing. But if that was possible, Lyft wouldn't exist because Uber was first, right? Yeah. So there's like some of that stuff, and it's so hard to control and fight and and that sort of thing.
Talking about building monopolies and stuff like that, like
it just gets sideways. So like, I hear what you're saying. I think that's a pretty interesting thing. It's hard to, you're never going to be able to stop it, And so like, I would much rather focus on spreading the love with your name associated to it and getting, the brand recognition down the line.
Well, see, that's kind of the ultimate goal for a bartender, is to create a cocktail that becomes part of the canon, that is like kind of your legacy cocktail, like kind of the cocktail that's going to, like, who made the Manhattan, who made the Old Fashioned,
right?
Like those cocktails that have been around for hundreds of years. So
that's cool. And now, the ones that are around 100 years ago, they didn't have these, right?
Sure.
And so now, like you're doing a great job of, you have the ability to video, to market, to brand, to promote yourself, and do that, and attach names and things like that to it. You know, you could put the right TikTok out there, and 150,000 people could see it tomorrow.
Yeah, TikTok's pretty insane.
Yeah.
That's something else I want to get Zach Tails on.
Yeah.
I think for like recipe videos and things like that would be cool. So
What kind of traction do you get on you? So for everybody that's listening, Zach you have 2 Instagram profiles. One's personal, kind of
One's
more
personal.
You behind the scenes and what you're all about.
It's not like, it's just like personals, like pictures of records. And
Yeah, you're a big music guy,
my kids,
right?
and yeah, my guitars and stuff like that. And then
Do you play guitar? Like
I do a little bit.
Nice.
In college, I minored in music theory, and I was really good in college. But like, I wanted to go to music school. Thankfully, my parents didn't really support it because I would probably have ended up in nothing against it at all, but like a music teacher, which is not the path that I would have been happy with.
Okay.
So, and then my mother, I'm a 4th generation bartender. And my mother, bartending was the last thing she wanted me to do.
No way.
So she was a little upset when I first. So I guess to give you a little bit of background on it, like I went to school for sales and marketing at IU.
Cool.
Got out, I put myself through school bartending, and then when I got out, I just kept going back to it. I take a job in sales somewhere, do it for 6 months, get sick of sitting in a cubicle, making cold calls, quit. Back to the restaurant industry. So after that 10 times, I was like, I'm just going to do this.
So when you were like, that's something I've thought about, and I've never worked in a restaurant, oddly. So were you just looking at it as a job and a way to pay the bills, like for a lot of years, and just at what point did you decide, hey, this could be a career, or if I put a little extra effort in here, I could make more money? So
being a 4th generation bartender, like it's almost in my DNA.
Yeah.
And I almost think there's no way I could have escaped it. I would have been drawn in no matter what, because I was in love with it. Like at 10 years old, like being in kitchens and behind the scenes. Like my mother was working, or my uncle was working, or things like that. Like I was just always there. So it was always ingrained in me for that way. But when I got out of college, I started working at Champs, where I met Elliot.
Cool. Yeah.
And I liked the flexibility. I liked the cash. At 21 years old, I liked the girls. I like just the whole
scene.
thing. It was fun. The scene. In your early 20s, it's really fun because restaurant people, they get after it and they party a lot. So there's a lot of fun nights and things like that. So like I said, I was bouncing back and forth for a while, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Knew I didn't want to work in corporate America per se. Knew I didn't want to sit in a cubicle and make cold calls and that kind of stuff. I'd done enough of that. So I just decided I'm just going to bartend for a while and see what happens. And then in my 30s, probably late 20s, early 30s, I wanted to open a bar. And that was kind of the next evolutionary step. And I thought number one, opening a bar would be the thing that my mom latched onto, that she'd be like, all right, yeah, that's cool. Because she always told me, she was like, I don't care if you're the CEO of a big company or if you rob banks, like as long as you're the best at it, I'm good.
That's
and
amazing advice, Mom.
Yeah, that was kind of her whole thing.
Yeah.
So I took a lot of I took that
cool.
to heart, and I really jumped into the history of cocktails and the history of spirits, bartending. When I started 25 years ago. The big question is what's your real job? What's your real job? What's your real job?
Right.
You don't get it as much anymore. Like Anthony Bourdain kind of made us all rock stars, which is cool.
Yeah.
So people, he added a lot of value to the restaurant community, period. Like he made it look really, really, really cool. Mm-hmm. So I think the general public kind of accepted it a little bit more then. But when I got into it, I just went all in. And the opportunities that are out there today by working with brands and doing consulting and other things like that, it's all extra side gigs and extra money, which is great. And then the other thing that's cool is I've turned it into a way to travel the world. We set up, I don't know, it's been 10 years ago now. We set up, it's called the Indiana Academy of Spirits and Fine Service. And It's basically a continued education program that we did with one of the big distributors here in town. Shout out to Southern Wine and Spirits.
Nice. There you go.
And basically, we would take people in the industry that were interested, and we put together a curriculum that was 12 or 16 weeks or something like that. And each week you'd come in and we would talk about a spirits genre. So we would talk everything about gin.
Okay.
But Southern, with their backing, we were able to bring in, like, if we were talking gin, we were able to bring in like the Angus Winchester, which is the international brand ambassador for Tanqueray, and he would teach the gin classes for us. And so we'd learn all about the history, we'd learn all about cocktails and recipes and things like that, all about the process of making gins. And then from there, we started an advanced academy, and the advanced academy were students of the original academy, and the advanced academy took us all over the world, learning about different distillation cultures, everywhere from France for cognac, down to Mexico and Oaxaca for tequila and mezcal, all over the Caribbean for rum, up to New York, because arguably they have arguably New York's probably got the best cocktail culture in the world right now. And then Scotland, we took a 2-week tour of Scotland for Scotch education.
So how can people people can get into this today? They can. Does it cost money, or how do they get into the program?
It does cost money. It's not a ton. It's been on the back burner for a couple of years because of COVID.
Gotcha.
Just because it's hard to put a big group of people in the same room together.
Right.
And so those conversations, as we normalize a little bit, those conversations will probably start happening again. There's also a national fraternity that I founded, the Indiana chapter for here in town. One good thing is if you're a service person, even if you're a server, I think it's very valuable. It's called the United States Bartenders Guild. We're the Indiana chapter. Even if you're a server, I think it's and not a bartender, I think we offer a lot of value just because monthly we do a brand-backed education. So say somebody like Heaven Hill Distillery will come up and buy lunch for everybody and take us through a brand education and make cocktails in the whole 9 yards, which is great. And typically we do some cool events through the year. Our biggest being every December 5th, we throw a huge party in the bottom of City Market.
Oh, cool.
They call it the Catacombs, and it's the celebration for Prohibition.
Nice.
And that thing just gets bigger and bigger and more out of control and raucous every year. So that's pretty cool. So that's one way to get more involved with that community, and we'll tie you in more to the education part. And then as Indiana Academy of Spirits and Fine Service comes back online, I would I tie in with the USBG. Follow me at Zach Tales, ZACHTAILS, because I'm always pumping that information out there.
Cool. That's not, and I want to make sure somehow, there's got to be a way I can sponsor somebody or give away a scholarship or do something like that.
Yeah, most definitely.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that's what we would give away is another contest for Sit With Me or something like that, for shares or something. Cool. So
I want to know, so one of the things I've noticed in talking to servers and bartenders is that switch that's got to flip when you realize that you're a bit of a salesperson. Your sales they'll directly lead to your tips.
Sure.
A lot of folks that I've talked to look at it as a job, right? And even if you're going through college or you're just getting started, you're killing some time in your mid to late 20s, right? It's still a really great way to make a good amount of money.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a mindset. Was there a moment in your career where you flipped the switch, or you're just kind of naturally outgoing and you like to talk to people, and so maybe it just came more naturally? But what do you think servers and bartenders could do to make that change in their mind?
So like I said earlier, I was kind of born into it, so it's just always been part of my DNA. So like when I started at I had a couple of jobs before. Like I had worked at a Cracker Barrel and a couple places that were just like whatever. I was a busboy in a restaurant that my mom worked at and did room service. My mom was a food and beverage director at the Indianapolis Marriott for 25 years or something like that. So she brought me in as a busboy when I was like 15 years old, and I did that whole thing. And then, at 18, I moved into room service, and when I was 18, it was 94, and in 1994 as an 18-year-old, I was making $1,000 a week doing room service.
That's great.
Yeah, and so
it's a
like,
lot of money back then.
a ton of money.
Yeah.
Like I had way more money than I should have had at 18 years old.
I feel
So it was just kind of a natural progression for me. I think there's definitely, I think anybody can be a server or bartender, but I think there's certain people that are specifically wired for it. I think it's, you have to be a little bit more outgoing. You have to be a little bit more chatty. You have to be a multitasker, because at any given time I've got 50 different things going on at once on a busy night. So it's just a combination of things. But one thing that I think is cool for industry people especially is that the skill set you learn at 5 years in a restaurant will make you so much more valuable to so many different companies if you move on, and if you go to sales, if you go pretty much any industry I can think of could benefit from hiring restaurant people.
It's cool that you said that, because it's something that hit me just the other day. Even is, I've talked a lot about your regulars following you from restaurant to restaurant, but I've talked to a couple people recently that got outside of the restaurant industry and got into sales, whether it be pharmaceuticals or something, along those lines. But they've met people along the way that can help in other areas of life, or that can be customers in other area of life. So like, it's really just a good way to brand yourself and carry those relationships forward. And I can't think of a better world in which you can start building your network at such a young age. And holding on to that and having a good way to do that, I think, is pretty important. And so maybe your network, even starting way back in your 18 to early 20s, carried forward.
And it's I've worked in anywhere from some of the best restaurants in Indianapolis to some of the most lowbrow dive bars and college bars and things like that. So I literally have 25 years of connections I've made from any aspect of life you can think of, like the underbelly of the world. If you need to bury a body, I probably got a guy for you. But at the same time, like if I have investing questions or anything like that, working at Anthony's Shop House, I've got access to wealth management people and things like that. I've never really been in any legal trouble, but I've got some of the best lawyers in the state that I take care of on a weekly basis, doctors, like you name it. Like if I've got a question about anything or need a contact in pretty much any facet of life, I can make a couple of phone calls and
you could have worked in my legal technology company, came in with 2 or 3 clients right off the bat, no lawyers.
Probably. That's one thing. When I was in sales, when I was bouncing back and forth from sales, number one, being in the restaurant industry, I got a couple of really lucrative sales jobs just from taking care of owners of companies or people that were in that industry. Because I found, even with a college degree, I found that it's a little bit more about who you know sometimes than it is what you know.
100%.
Yeah, 'cause I've gotten into situations that I was probably punching above my weight a little bit, but
you get in there, you figure it out one way or the other.
I'm the best. I'm at my best when you throw me in the fire. Yeah. Like, because then it's swim or sink, and you've got to figure it out. And my motivation gets going, and the adrenaline gets going, and that's when I'm really at my best.
I'm the exact same way, man. I've always said my favorite saying that I heard somewhere along the line was the only way to make sure you take the island is to burn the boat.
Sure.
And then you're in there, you got to figure it out, or you're in big trouble, right? So I love that, man. What do you think your brand is? Like, so this is all, about brand building, and you're somebody, like you said, underbelly, all the way to Anthony's Chop House, which is an amazing high-end restaurant. And so you've had the ability to kind of build your brand along the way. What do you think it is?
So I should probably sit down, and I need to rewrite a bio anyway, because mine's a little bit out of date, but I should probably sit down and figure this out a little bit better. Because I've taken this from bartending and beer and shop places to being a brand ambassador, to working with different brands for education, to being an educator, to speaking at conferences, educational conferences around the world. Like I said, touring all around the world, learning about distillation and cocktail culture. So I'm not really sure what that answer would be.
Yeah. Well, and you know,
I mean, there's just so much to it. Like, I think now that I've matured, I push a little bit more towards the educational side of things, and I kind of feel like I'm not the oldest guy in the game right now, but I'm getting there. Right. So my thing is right now is I want to take the people that I'm working with, and the younger people coming up, and I want to be able to point them towards the opportunities that I had coming up, and I want to show them a way to be able to do the things that I've been able to do. So I think I need to probably define that a little bit better.
Well, and you can define it too with, you know, the reason I asked is because when I look at your Instagram pages, which is kind of what got us started on this, is like you have a very specific style of, you know, the fun, you know, music and cool stuff, and then the fancy drinks and the nice restaurants, and the education stuff is really cool as well. And so, I mean, I always, you know, I think bios are kind of it's cool and it's good to have a good bio. It's sort of the old school way of defining things. But, you know, the pictures and the videos that you put out there are really cool, and that defines it too.
I've become very hospitality forward.
Yeah.
When I was a young bartender, like even when we opened the Ball and Biscuit, I was kind of a dick. Like I was vested up. If I could grow a mustache, I would have had the wax mustache. Like I had the bow tie, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Super pretentious about drinks. But at the same time, I've got that hospitality background, and I've got that Hoosier hospitality thing. So at the same time, like you could come in there and get world-class cocktails, but I'd also pour you a shot of Jameson. I had cold Budweiser in there at all times.
How'd you feel about my Bud Light if I came in there and ordered a Bud Light bottle?
Wouldn't care. Would not care.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, maybe it was 10 years ago or so, but I went from chasing the dollars to giving customer experiences.
Huge, yeah.
And when I went from chasing dollars to offering better customer experiences, a few things happened. Like I started making everybody that walked in, I gave them a memorable experience. I've been such a big part of so many people's like special nights, and to have people come in 10 years later, or now I'm old enough that I've taken care of people that have kids now and tell the stories about like them getting engaged at my bar where I was working or things like that, and they bring their kids in, so that's cool. But the other thing is when you give up chasing the dollar and you give up some of that pretentiousness and things like that, and start offering a better guest experiences, you build more regulars, which brings in a pipeline of more residual money.
Right.
You naturally make more money. You're more relaxed at work, so you have more fun with it. So that's a ton of different stuff to go along with it.
And that's just solid life advice, right? I mean, like I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with folks, and they're chasing the dollar, and a lot of times they're chasing the dollar to make somebody else happy, whether it's a family member or a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or whatever it is. And I think once you are able to kind of step back and see the forest instead of just a few trees around you, you can realize, like, all right, I'm perfectly happy in this hospitality world because I like being a part of people's lives. I like making people happy, or doing, you know, fun educational things like that. And there is a path to my happiness and success here. And, you know, success is really, in my opinion, just your relationship with time.
Sure.
You know, and a little bit of self-awareness mixed in there. But like, if you get to do what you want, and you're, you know, if you're sitting in a cubicle and it's driving you nuts, doesn't matter how much money you make, you're probably not going to consider yourself successful.
Sure. And I think it's the same way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
I think it's the same way in any industry. Like I said, I'm getting to the older end of the bar and restaurant industry. And granted,
I don't know if you are. I did some research.
I've been taking care of some 75-year-old bartenders.
Yeah.
I was at the something goat in Chicago.
Oh, the Girl and the Goat?
No,
Damn it. I love that place.
The burger place, cheeseburger.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What's it called? The Billy Goat Tavern.
Billy Goat Tavern.
I was at Billy Goat Tavern one night. We were up there to see a concert. I think we were up there to see Nick Cave or something like that. And we stumbled in the Billy Goat Tavern, walking back to the hotel or something. And like the bartender was 72, barely spoke English, but like one of my most memorable service nights ever. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I think a lot of people can't make it 25 years in the restaurant industry because there's a lot of burnout. It's probably the same way with any industry. Like, I think 25 years sitting in a cubicle, like,
I feel that.
Pushing papers and things like that, it's probably the same way. But our job is, it's mentally taxing, it's physically taxing. It's taxing on relationships. My wife, like, she's very understanding and very patient with my line of work. And now I'm not working clubs anymore. I'm not working till 5 o'clock in the morning and any of that stuff.
It's a grind, man. That sounds, gosh, I'm tired just thinking about it.
Yeah. So, and like, working holidays and things like that, like, that's just something you got to be used to. But, where I'm at now, I work at a place that's very understanding of my family life, and Anthony's very much about work-life balance and that's really cool. Takes care of us.
And you put in the time and you worked your way up to that point, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's amazing. I love it. So, thinking some random questions here. Like, you're a high-end cocktail creator. What's your favorite drink to actually drink?
I mentioned Giuseppe Gonzalez a little bit ago. He came up with a cocktail called the Trinidad Sour. Okay. And the Trinidad Sour, it doesn't make any sense on paper.
Okay.
Because my buddy Josh came in one night when I was working. He was like, "Hey, I had this cocktail. You should check it out. It's got whiskey in it. It's got lemon juice in it. It's got orgeat in it, and orgeat's like an almond syrup, basically." And he's like, "It's got a full ounce of Angostura bitters in it." I'm like, "An ounce of bitters? Like, typically in a cocktail, you put 2 dashes of bitters."
Yeah.
And they call it bitters because it's bitter.
Like,
Its bitters are so bitter, even though they're 80 proof, the federal government doesn't look at it as alcohol because they think you'd be crazy to drink it on its own. So, like, when you couldn't buy spirits in Indiana on Sundays, you would see people that needed a drink buying bottles of bitters at the grocery store because you could buy them and they're 80 proof. It's as strong as a glass of whiskey. Holy shit. They call them bitters because they're super bitter.
Yeah.
And it's a top 3 cocktail for me for sure. Old Fashions is another big one for me. Very simple.
Big fan of those.
I really love daiquiris, and that's another really simple one.
Nice.
3 ingredients, shaken, stirred up. Like a classic daiquiri is one of the best cocktails you can have. And like an Old Fashioned and a daiquiri are 2 of the things. I think it was you've heard of the French Laundry?
Yeah.
Well, Thomas Keller, anytime he hires a new chef, he interviews him and then he's like, "Go roast me a chicken." Okay. And that's the process, like the most simple thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the best restaurants in the world. And if he's going to hire you, you roast him a chicken. And so that's one of the things I'm like, make me an old fashioned, make me a daiquiri.
I like it.
And if you can get through those, like, I can see your technique. I can see what we'll need to work on if you come into the restaurant and things like that. So
you're not going to have him do any fancy stuff. I think Dakota, when he's post-producing this, he can maybe throw a little picture of it up here. But I saw you drop like a smoke ball from the upper deck at the restaurant, and it landed. Like, tell me about what was that all about? What was it?
There's I think around Australia, there's this company called the Flavor Blaster, and it looks like some kind of weird futuristic pistol.
Okay.
And it's basically an expensive vape pen.
Okay.
So it's got an oil well, a little oil cartridge that you pop in it. I've never vaped, so I'm just kind of guessing because I've seen people vape. But you pop an oil cartridge into this gun, and all the oil cartridges, you can get anything from smoke to berry flavor to rosemary flavor, different herbs, things like that. And then they've got a food grade bubble mixture, and you dip the tip of the gun into the bubble mixture, and when you pull the trigger, a fan kicks on, blows the smoke out, heats up the smoke, blows the smoke out, the bubble forms, then you can drop it over the top of a cocktail to smoke it. So
from the second deck, if you are so inclined.
Yeah, I don't think Anthony's like super stoked when we do that.
That's cool.
But we've been able to manage to do it a couple times.
That's awesome. It looked really cool, man. I probably watched that thing 15 times just trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
It got shared like thousands of times. Like, people were texting me about it, and then still to this day, people are like, "Hey, I saw that bubble video online. Like, can we do that?"
Dude, that's your first TikTok. You need to get that on a TikTok. Like, if you were talking about making one of those, like, talk about one that could blow up and get you hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah, that could be it.
That's the one.
You're right. I should do one for that.
That's cool, man. So you're a big music guy, right?
I am.
I'm always impressed by the various album covers that you share
Sure.
and that sort of thing. So give me, like, I'm a concert dude myself. I'm probably not quite as devoted as you, but I'm in the ballpark. Give me your best, what do you like to listen to the most and your favorite live experience? I'm a big live concert dude.
I am too, and I can't believe I haven't been to a concert. I probably have been at the same concerts.
We've been to the same.
You.
If you've been to a Dave Matthews concert, period.
Yeah.
Well,
as many concerts as E and I have been to. Like, I can't believe we haven't been to one together.
I know.
So.
We need to start getting 3 tickets instead of 2 because
I
feel
totally
like E gets to go to both. If you get tickets, he goes with you. If I get tickets, he comes with me.
No,
so
totally in.
3
totally
from here on out.
I probably should have grabbed you tickets because I got us tickets to Jack White and I got us tickets to the Deftones.
He's got a cool record collection. Like, it's a club, I think. Jack White.
I'm a member.
Are you?
It's great. Yeah,
that's a really cool one.
Yeah, I'm a member of a couple of those clubs. Jack White's is pretty neat. He'll pull up a lot of it's old like live White Stripe stuff and rarities and things like that. But then like I don't know, 3 months ago they did like this rare Bob Dylan bootlegs album that was pretty cool, which I was really into. So, and the cool thing about those is I remain a member even if I don't want that monthly album or not, because they're typically worth 3 times. Like, as soon as you get it, it's typically worth 3 or 4 times as much as you paid for it. And if it's something I don't want, I just pop it up on eBay or something.
When he starts his NFTs, there's that's one to look out for, right?
Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting the way it goes. But what I like to listen to, man, it's all over the board. I listen to anything from like old school 70s funk and soul and like older folk music. I'm really into singer-songwriter stuff. Like Bob Dylan and Tom Waits are probably my 2 favorite individual artists. I'm really into psychedelic stuff. Like the Flaming Lips are one of my favorite bands.
Nice.
And then it gets crazy. Like, I'm at any given time, like if we put my playlist on shuffle, you could hear like Peter, Paul and Mary, the Wu-Tang Clan, Rage Against the Machine, and Taylor Swift, like all within 35 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
So
I'm very similar. I'm the same way. I got on a huge Childish Gambino kick.
Yeah, love him. Yeah, you guys went down to see him, right?
We did.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Now, although we were actually at the show where he broke his ankle and he had to end the tour for a few shows early, and I'd had a handful of beers, of course, and it didn't dawn on me at the time, but I was like, man, that was a short concert. But he cut the concert even short because he broke his ankle right on stage, which was kind of a bummer. But Gambino, Foo Fighters is I love seeing them live.
They're a great live band.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
We should get tickets to that one out at Deer Creek this
summer. Absolutely, I'm gonna try and get a whole gang of those because I know I've been singing their praises for a number of years now. So like I got a bunch of friends that are finally ready to go check them out.
I took my son to see them on the the Broken Leg tour.
Yeah,
I didn't really know what to expect because I was like, he's got a broken leg, and I was almost in tears the whole time because it's just so exciting and so much energy. They put on such a great show.
That was you went to the one here?
Yeah.
I think that was the one where I had this cool video I'll have to share with you sometime, but it's essentially the band starting to rev it up while the curtain's still down, right? And they're all, banging on their instruments, and you can hear Dave Grohl in the background just screaming, "Are you fucking ready?" Just over and over again, getting everybody all hyped up. And the coolest thing was right when they kicked it in, the curtain somehow got sucked into the middle of the curtain. So, a lot of curtains drop. This thing just shot straight back over the band backwards, and it just all got sucked in. Like, I've never seen anything like that. But talk about like the hairs on my arms are even standing up thinking about it now. Yeah. I was so hyped that show. I was all fired up.
He's got like the best like rock and roll scream.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know how he does it. He always says sometimes too, he's like, a lot of you motherfuckers are gonna lose your voice tonight, and one of them is not gonna be me.
You should check out his audiobook that just came out.
I'm in the middle of it right now.
It's great.
Yeah. I like the way he mixes in tunes, here and there, and it's pretty different for an audiobook.
Like I always like an audiobook that the artists read. Like Jeff Tweedy from Wilco did a couple of good ones.
Cool.
But he's got a story. Grohl's got a story. I don't want to give it away.
Go
but
for
it's not that big a deal. Where he was in Australia on tour, and he was gonna miss the daddy-daughter dance
bummer,
for both of his daughters, and it was the first time his youngest daughter was going to be able to come.
Yeah.
So they were looking at the tour schedule, and he was able to postpone a show and move it. So he finished the show, took a helicopter to the airport, got on the plane, straight to LA, got off the plane, put his suit on, took his daughters to the daddy-daughter dance.
Huge.
Took him home, got back on the plane, got back to Australia just in time to walk back out on stage for the other show.
That's amazing.
And like he's just like good guy, Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
And I've got this whole theory, like he's like the last like big rock star. Like there's tons of famous musicians, a ton of great musicians, but he's like the last rock star.
It couldn't agree more. And it's cool the way he's almost treating his life, his experiences like that, and documenting a lot of stuff, getting involved in the history of rock a lot, and different, the Neve Board documentary that he did, and what was the one where they made the album, or they made a song in each city, and
it's HBO or Showtime thing. Something sound. I can't remember of it. It's great though.
It's amazing. Yeah, he's got a bunch of those types of things, and it's pretty interesting. He's kind of helped me think about that in my life a little bit as a perspective. You know, like our parents and grandparents, they didn't have these cell phones around. They didn't have video like we have it.
Sure.
And now we have the ability for our kids, grandkids, great grandkids to be the one that they can see by creating our videos, telling our stories, sitting on podcasts like this. And, you know, it's amazing to think of, like, I couldn't go see what my great grandpa stood for right now. I couldn't go see what he was all about, what kind of dude was he, whatever, you know. But hopefully, you know, a bunch of years from now, my great grandkids or whatever can play this video and listen to us. So we become the patriarchs, right? And
so it's kind of funny because I look at my personal Instagram as putting together a photo album for my kids.
Super
so
smart,
they'll be able to go back through it, and like there's some dumb memes and stuff on there at some point. But
of course,
they'll be like,
but then they'll know that we have a ridiculous sense of humor too.
Great Grandpa Zach was hilarious.
Yeah, that's right. I love it, man.
You were asking about my best concert experience.
Oh yeah,
there've been so many, but I always go back to one. We went to Chicago to see Dylan and Merle Haggard. I'm really into old school honky tonk country as well.
Cool.
And they played at the Chicago Theater, which is an amazing venue. And Merle Haggard came out, did an amazing honky tonk set. And then Dylan came out with, I think it was a 4-piece. I can't remember if it was a 4-piece or a 3-piece band, but he had rewritten all the music to his songs as honky tonk songs to go along with being on tour with Merle Haggard. So it was a Bob Dylan show with a honky tonk background.
Oh my gosh.
And it was one of those nights, like Dylan right now, like you don't know what you're going to get. Like 50% of the time you can't understand what he says.
Right.
But then you'll see him and it's glorious. Like the most unbelievable show that you'd ever seen. His voice was great that night. It was unbelievable.
That's amazing.
So I would say that's up. There's just been so many though.
I know. That's cool that you say that. You know, I don't give enough respect to, you know, my mom especially. She's born in southeastern Kentucky, big country music fan, and I spent way too much time. I hated it at the time, but as a youngster at like the Grand Ole Opry, going to places. You know, I've seen Dolly Parton for God's sakes.
Have you really?
Yeah,
that's a bucket list place for me. I have not been to the Grand Ole Opry yet.
The old school, and I don't think if somebody were to ask me that question, my mind immediately goes to those rock concerts or the Gambino, or I've seen Snoop Dogg or Rage Against the Machine, you know, that type of thing. But like, those things were really cool. That was a big part of history. I don't even think about those. B.B. King was one that my good buddy Mark and I went to see in Providence, Rhode Island, and he was pretty advanced in age, but still sounded amazing. And just seeing that history, you know, somebody that did so much.
There's a great podcast by a guy named Tyler Mahan Coe, which is David Allan Coe's son.
Oh, cool.
A big famous country guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of polarizing, but it's all about the history of 21st century country music, starting in like the 40s or 50s. Well, he grew up around all these people, and the Country Music Hall of Fame gave him complete access to all their archives.
Oh, wow.
And he tells the story of country music starting in the 30s and 40s. We're probably, he's 2 seasons in. We're kind of dipping into the 80s a little bit, but still kind of focusing on the 60s and 70s mostly. And it's, even if you're not a country music fan, and you're just a fan of music or a fan of history, like it's definitely worth jumping in. It's called Cocaine and Rhinestones, which is a great name for a podcast, but he completely does it independently. He kind of supports it all through Patreon and stuff like that. But like I think at one point he said for each episode he produces, he puts 80 hours of research into.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it's pretty insane, and it's great. It shows it's one of the best podcasts.
I'll check that one out for sure. I love it, man. I'm trying to think of another good question for what is all right. So you're obviously an amazing bartender. And you got a ton of regulars. Where do you like to be a regular at? Where do you like to go? Are there any servers or bartenders out there that you tend to go and hang with?
Yeah, there's a ton. And I think as bartenders, which I think this kind of pieces into Sit With Me, and I think this is why Sit With Me will be so valuable when I travel. Like as bartenders, like we don't typically go to places because of the places. We typically go to see other bartenders.
We go to see our friends.
Folks, we go to see our buddies. So
I think that's one thing I want to try and figure out a way to do better is like make it easier for you folks in the industry to identify other folks in the industry. Obviously, you can flip to the other side of the app and just become the customer.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of like a star or something like that. On there just so people know, like if you go in and sit with somebody at Harry and Izzy's across the street or something like that, they know that you're at Anthony's, and be that as it may be great, may be awful. They may be like, oh, I can take it a little easier on this dude, which you probably don't care because you know how it is. But I think that'd be pretty cool.
We so my wife and I, like with kids now, I don't know. I've become way more of a homebody than I used to be, and we go to a lot of different restaurants, but like we don't really go. We eat out a lot, but like we eat a lot of ethnic food. So like we're hit Mexican places or Thai places and things like that.
Yeah.
But when we go out in Indianapolis, there's a lot of like Inferno Room down in Fountain Square, which is a tiki bar.
Yeah.
Is amazing.
I've heard a lot about that place. I haven't been there. I need to go check it out.
One night. It's awesome. It's like you walk in, the guy that owns it, his name's Ed Rudisell and Chris Coy are the two guys that own it. And they used to own Siam Square. Oh, well, they still own. Ed still owns Siam Square, but Ed also used to own Black Market, which unfortunately closed to COVID. But you walk into that place, Ed somehow found a guy down towards Bloomington, somewhere in southern Indiana, that back when he was in World War II or one of the wars, you'll have to research the story because I'm not 100% sure, but brought back an amazing collection of Polynesian art.
Cool.
And this guy was getting up there in age a little bit, and Ed was able to buy the whole collection.
Oh, shit.
So
Nice.
you walk in this place, and first knowing the story and walking around, I'm like some of this stuff does not belong here. Like some of this stuff needs to be in the Smithsonian or something.
Museum of some sort, right?
Because I'd be freaking out, like people would touch the stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
But you feel like you're walking onto like an Indiana Jones set, and the cocktails are killer. A good buddy of mine who's in New York now, but Eli Sanchez was kind of one of the first guys to kind of head up that program, and just really, really great tiki style cocktails. And then I'm a big fan of Teeny on Mass Ave. I've got a bunch of friends that work there.
Cool.
And then Curtis, I haven't been there yet, but Curtis just opened another place next door called Almost Famous, and it's going to be kind of a bar performance arts space for anything from music to comedians to drag shows to burlesque shows.
That's cool, yeah.
So that'll be cool. Indy's cool now. Like I remember when I was first in my 20s, like you just had Broad Ripple, or like a local dive bar or something like that.
Slippery Noodle Inn.
Yeah.
That was about
there
it.
wasn't a lot of things like you came downtown to go to the Slippery Noodle or St. Elmo's. There wasn't anything else. And now like just every side of town has a pocket of something cool going on. And I think a lot of people have gone out and traveled and seen food cultures in other cities, or have gone to work in other cities as chefs or you name it, and have kind of brought that back to the Midwest. And that's kind of been responsible for popping up a lot of that stuff. Milktooth, that's one of my favorite places to go in the city. Yeah.
Big fan of that place.
So
what? Give me one little, as we're kind of wrapping up here. Give me some advice that you'd give, somebody that's just getting started in the industry, or even yourself 25 years ago when you're getting started.
Take care of your feet.
Yeah. Good shoes.
Take
Check.
care of your feet, man. That's the biggest thing.
That's awesome.
But no, there's just so many takeaways. Like if you're in for the long haul, and you're looking to make a career out of this, learn everything you can about every place that you work. Learn about all the spirits that are on your back bar. Learn about, if you're in a food-centric place, learn about all the cool ingredients that your chefs are using in the back. That's one of my favorite things to do is I'll just go wander around the walk-ins in the kitchen, and I'll start smelling different herbs or different chilies, and like kind of start deciding like what I can use in cocktails and things like that. Just like anything that you can learn and anything that you can provide a backstory to really adds a lot of value to what you do. There's all kinds of certifications you can get. I'm a level 2 sommelier right now, so that really helps me with wine sales, which really boosts my check average, which makes me more money. This year, or last year, actually, I got 2 certifications. I am recognized as a tequila expert by the Mexican government, which is cool.
Wow, look at that. That's super official, man.
It's really neat, man.
That's great.
Really cool. So that was a cool program. And then the other one I got, I guess the official title would be Executive Whiskey Steward.
Okay.
So I became a bourbon sommelier last year as well. There's just all these cool things you can chase down. There's a couple of great educational things out there, like follow Lush Life and Camp Run Amok and like Portland Cocktail Week.
Okay.
Lindsay does a really great job for bartender education. I've been through a lot of her programs to learn stuff, and like anytime, like we did Camp Run Amok back in 2016, and Camp Run Amok is every year they pick 150 bartenders from all around the world, and they take you down to this camp in Kentucky, and for 10 days all you do is bourbon, nothing else. So every day you take like 3 or 4 excursions. So you'll go to distilleries, you'll go to cooperages to learn how barrels are made, you'll go to farms to talk to farmers about corn production, things like that. And then at night you'll come back, and they typically have a big pool party for everybody, which is fun.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the bartenders will bring bottles from wherever they're from, and then we'll sit around a bonfire at night.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Drink different
hang out, get to know,
from
try
all
all
over
the
the country,
different
and
spirits.
tell war stories. And so that's cool. But anything that you can do to get involved, like check and see if your city or your state's got a United States Bartenders Guild. That opened a ton of opportunities for me. There's so many great cocktail books out there to help your education, like the Jim Meehan Bartender's Manual's great. All the Death and Company books are really great. Just start learning as much as you can.
And network, right? I mean, and the people that, especially, given you where you're at, I mean, there's some pretty interesting people and important people that come through, I imagine.
There's a ton. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool, man. Well, all right. So give me the where can people find you? You're on the Sit With Me app for one, which is amazing. I can't thank you enough for that. You're
most definitely.
I need
probably to work on that out a little bit.
My favorite profile on there though, because you've taken it really seriously. You've got a bunch of great pictures out there. Your schedule's always up to date. It's amazing. I appreciate that. So you can always find Zach and his schedule on the app. But where can they find you in social media life? Social
media wise, it's Zach Tales on Twitter, ZACHTAILS. You can check out Zachary Wilks on Twitter too. That's my personal, but if you got to like dog pictures and kid pictures and record pictures.
I'm down for all that, yeah.
So those are my 2 big ones. My email address, like if anybody ever wants to get a hold of me for events or education or anything like that, it's zwilks@gmail.com.
I think that's important too. Like, I mean, if there's people out there that are listening that are interested in making this a career and really, driving their income, wisely and smartly through this industry, like you've got a ton of great suggestions and you can hook them up with different people.
I'm always about mentoring young bartenders that or service people. I mean, I've waited tables for a lot of my career too. It hasn't always just been bartending. But I'm always about helping bring somebody up and helping them find the education and helping them along the path to get some of the opportunities that opened up for me. Because like even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like to have a brand, take a group of bartenders from Indiana all over the world to learn about cocktail culture and distillation, stuff like that was completely unheard of. So lots of cool stuff out there like that. Lots of opportunities, like you can get connected to the right people and you can do some travel stuff. Like typically, like if there's a Super Bowl or like we just had the football championship here.
Yeah.
A lot of cities will reach out to bring in bartenders for big events like that for stuff. So
that's exciting. Yeah, that's cool.
Lots of cool stuff going out there these days for bartenders.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
You're just an amazing dude. Really cool to talk to.
Thank
a lot
you.
of fun, man. And so I was super excited to have you on here, man. I appreciate you.
No,
taking
it was.
the time,
I didn't really
man.
know what I was getting into today. It was great.
Yeah, it's just sit around and tell the world how cool you are, man. I think that's the goal. But
I learned it by watching you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No problem.